Welcome to the Masterful Coach Podcast with Molly Claire. If you're a coach who's ready to impact more lives, make more money, and create a life you love, you're in exactly the right place. Get the support you deserve as a female entrepreneur. Master your coaching skills, grow your ideal business, and honor your priorities in your personal life. Are you in? Let's get started with your host, best-selling author and master life and business coach, Molly Claire.
Hey, coaches. Okay, today's episode is going to be so good, and especially because you're hearing it before the year's end, and this could have a pretty big impact on the taxes you pay this year. So I have on the podcast today, Sandy Tapia. Hello, welcome, Sandy.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So Sandy and I met a week ago. Literally, I had all my podcast episodes set for, through the holidays. And I was speaking at Tax and Legal 360. It is a Mark J. Kohler event. I was there and I sat next to Sandy at a lunch and we started talking, and I realized that I needed to bring her here to speak to you. So Sandy is a tax advisor and more, and she's going to tell you all about that. And of course, any of you that are needing help with tax advising, she can serve you. And one of the things that stood out to me in our conversation is that Sandy is specially equipped and knowledgeable to help those of you who are looking for international tax help. So this would mean that you are a U.S. citizen living outside of the States, or you are not a U.S. citizen and you are working in the States. So that is that's the backstory of why Sandy's here. And I know you're going to love this episode. So let's do it. Are you ready, Sandy?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I know I've said a few things about you, but go ahead and tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I've always liked numbers since I was little. So I looked at different career paths, and I chose accounting just because it gives you so many options. Like I've been an accountant, I've been an auditor, now I'm a tax advisor. And the reason I also like doing this is because I like helping people, and I like helping people pay less tax and advising them on different also financial options that they can do in investments that have a tax benefit as well. So basically it's leading people to financial independence, having assets that, having assets that provide income that they need so they live the life that they want, and give them more options with their time. Yeah.
I mean, it really is a big deal because most of us, I'm including myself in this, when I think about tax and legal stuff and accounting and bookkeeping, it's not the sexiest topic. It's not, and I think that a lot of people avoid it because it seems like the unknown. It seems like one more expense to have help with that. But notice what Sandy's saying is, by having a handle on your numbers, on knowing how to really, get a handle on those tax advantages as well, right? It means more money in your pocket. It means better quality of life. It's really being a lot smarter with all of the hard work you're putting into your business. And that's really what we all want, right? We want everything to be better and simpler, and we want to be able to make more money. So maybe not a sexy topic, but maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I wanted Sandy to explain to all of you and me as well is the difference between a tax advisor and a tax preparer, because they're different. Right? Yeah. So what's the difference? So yes, we can go find someone, we can go to H&R Block, and we can have someone prepare our taxes. What's the difference between someone preparing our taxes and what you do, which is tax advising?
Yes, there's a big difference because when you have a tax preparer, like you said, you can just go online or down the block to one of those companies. You give them the information right there and they prepare in front of you. But they're just gonna prepare and put in the return what you give them. Versus a tax advisor, you have a conversation with them, what's going on with your life, where you traveled, how's your business. So then we analyze things in your life or your activities or global activities, right? Especially, and see if we can find some deductions. So it's going to lower your tax bill and give you suggestions of what you could do. For example, if you have a second home in Europe, and you're traveling there, well, we could, and you were there for a business purpose, we can set up like a rental of your second home and then have that as a deduction and the special rules in the tax codes that allows you to do that. So it's
Mhm.
identifying things in the tax code that is allowed based on your life activity, your business activities as well,
Mhm.
and get an extra deduction or investments that could be beneficial for you that will give you a tax credit. So the government gives some incentives and tax credits and tax deductions in certain investments that if you invest in certain things. So it's
Mhm.
identifying those things and give you ideas on what to invest that's going to give you a tax deduction, and identifying activities that's going to give you a tax deduction as well, like paying your kids,
Mhm.
involving them in your business, and so you don't
Mhm.
pay tax and you take a deduction, or having a board meeting with your family, especially
Mhm.
now during Christmas, and then you can deduct that as a business expense. So
Mhm.
you're gonna be having more deductions, which is gonna give you money that you can reinvest in your business or invest it in other things that going to be
Mhm.
beneficial for you. So that's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge difference because, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think my
Mhm.
mindset has been, I have a lot of confidence in the person that does my taxes, and so I'm covered. I'm set. But that's, I mean, I'm just imagining all the things I've been missing out on because building a business is a lot of work and it's a lot of expense. And my guess is that there are a lot of little things that most of us could be doing that might make a big difference in how much we have to pay or how much we're able to keep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And the more
Yeah.
you keep it, you can use it for other things, on financial instruments to invest or reinvest in your
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's really,
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so and millionaires do this. Millionaires have a
Yeah.
tax advisor team, and I don't want to mention names, but a lot
Yeah.
of people in real estate, they take advantage of accelerated depreciation. So sometimes they don't pay any tax.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then they have the tax advisors helping them do all these tax loopholes and identifying the strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, something I want to just highlight here for those of you listening is that, it's true. We're always conscientious about what am I spending my money on? And spending money to hire a tax advisor is isn't as flashy or as exciting as some of the things we may want to invest in, right? And so I think we can see it as, oh, another expense that is a nuisance. But I think what's really fantastic about this, I know we were talking about this before, is that if someone comes to you, Sandy, and has just like a free discovery call with you, you're really going to evaluate if them working with you is actually going to keep money in their pocket, right? Like that's the whole, you don't want them to hire you unless it's going to be a financial benefit to them.
Correct. Yeah, I don't want to help someone if they're not gonna save at least the amount that they're paying me to save on
Yes.
taxes. And the other thing is we'll identify their legal structure.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that if they immediately need a revocable trust. So not only is the tax side, but also the legal structure, because that also impact the amount of taxes that they could pay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and their legal and the revocable trust. I know a lot of people talk about trust sometimes, but in the US, that's important because when you transfer assets after you pass away, you don't have to go through the courts, through probate, and their family hire lawyers and spend money on lawyer fees and so on. So we looked at the whole structure, the legal, tax, and your assets financially as well. And if you want to also build generational wealth, we also help you with that. So,
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I just keep thinking about all of my clients and all the coaches I've seen, you know, over the years I've been in this business and how hard we work, how much we put in. And I mean, this is just obviously a really smart move to be able to maximize the work that we're putting in.
exactly. And we all have to pay taxes. So we want to be smart about paying the least tax because
Yes.
we want to put that money in our pockets
Yes,
because we work so hard for it. Yeah.
I know. Well, and a couple things that are coming to mind, you know, two things that I'm really big on, and this is a huge theme throughout, you know, the podcast episodes and interviews is number one is our quality of life, right? A business that supports our quality of life. And what a smart way to really ensure that we are doing just that, right? I always say like our business should support the life that we want. It shouldn't be right the other way around. And I feel like this is in line with that, right? Where we're being smarter with our hours, with our time, with how we're doing things so that we can have that quality of life. And the other thing that's really standing out to me is I talk a lot about mastery, right? Being the best. And as Sandy was talking, I'm sure many of you have talked with people and said, okay, what's the best way? What's the best designation for my business? An LLC, like what's an S corp? And I think in my experience, there can be pretty simple recommendations about that. And I've heard people say, oh, well, it's not a big deal. It's either this or this. But what I'm hearing from you, Sandy, and this is why I wanted to bring you here, is that you really are that mastery level of expertise of really understanding in depth what your clients need to know and what you need to know in order to advise them to make the very best decisions, not just something that's an option and it's okay, but this is the way to go to maximize the effort in your business.
Correct. And everyone's different. So whatever
Yeah.
fits one person's not going to fit another person. So this is why we go into conversations with our clients, either
Right.
monthly or quarterly, and checking with them what's going on, what they want to invest on, how's their business. And then we can make suggestions and identify those strategies on
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have a couple other really important questions that I think are going to give all of you, all of my listeners, some really good insights. But something I just want to touch on quickly, because we talked about this before we started recording as well. So we've identified, okay, a tax advisor versus a tax preparer, right? That tax advisor is helping you strategize, looking at the big picture, finding those ways you can keep more money in your pocket. And then you also had touched on the difference between a bookkeeper who is simply tracking your expenditures versus an accountant who is also being more strategic about that. So tell us a little bit about that, because my understanding is you do that as well, right?
Yeah, yes, correct. I'm a certified public accountant in the US, so we go through this extensive certification trainings and audit, accounting, tax, and business managerial. So a bookkeeper, they're just trained how to use the software basically and just keep track of your expenses. An accountant is going to identify the correct journal entries and if there's an entry done wrong, because they're going to look at your profit and loss, right? And they're going to look at your balance sheet accounts, and they'll be able to identify if there's any errors and stuff, because when there's errors, you report that to your tax return. There's going to be an error, and then you're going to be paying more in tax. So it's important to have an accountant that knows, that's going to identify the errors, make sure that your financial statements are correctly stated. as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
And they're going to be able to give you strategies about cash flow and identify, okay, you have this recurring expense, or you have these expenses that maybe you should cut down, or identify your seasonal, if you have a seasonal business where you have more income or more expenses at a certain time. And they can also project your cash flow, and then make suggestion, okay, maybe you should have a line of credit just there as a backup. So you don't want to have a credit card, right? And carry that forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's becoming more and more evident that there's a lot that we don't know. And thank goodness we don't have to know it all, because there are
Yes.
people like you that are really skilled at this.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's a question. I'm sure all of you listening are wanting to know this. I know I want to know this.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking about just having someone prepare my taxes versus bringing on a tax advisor like you, what is the potential difference between the two in terms of actual money that is going to stay in my pocket? What is the real impact of that potentially?
Yeah, it could be thousands of dollars, because the tax advisor is going to suggest more expenses, right? And the tax preparer is not. They're just going to take your information, put it in the software, and give you a tax return. The tax advisor is going to talk to you about what have you been doing? Did you travel somewhere? Okay, that could be an expense we can take on. So it could mean a big difference. Also, different types of investments for retirement. You mentioned you have a SEP account, but sometimes it might be better for you to have a safe harbor account, or
Oh,
there's other options for solo entrepreneurs. It's also called a cash balance account. So
okay.
first, I wanna hear about you. What's your objective? How do you want to compensate your employees? So then I can tell you the best fit retirement account plan for you specifically. So that's going to be another difference as well. We can talk about life insurance if that's appropriate for you. So the tax advisor is going to talk to you about more things and more options that could be beneficial for you. Versus a tax preparer, you're just going to give them the information, what you think is an expense or not, and then just put it in the software, and that's it. And you could be missing out on thousands and thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
especially for retirement, for your business. So it's
Yeah.
huge. We could have a whole day conversation about this.
I know, I bet. I
Yeah.
mean, thousands, right? And it's like, because yes, I have a SEP IRA, and I think ever since I was advised to go that direction, I've always just had this assumption that I'm doing the smartest thing. And now you're mentioning things that I don't even know about. So,
Yeah.
and I think I just want to highlight again what I love about this is, um, not only does, as we get all of this stuff, as we get all our ducks in a row with this, and we know that it's taken care of, there's such a peace of mind in that, that I think probably too many of us don't give ourselves the gift of doing that.
Yeah.
This is one of the things, and this is why I just think it's so perfect that you're here, not only because you can talk about these things before the end of the year, right? So that people can take some action to maybe be a little bit smarter going forward. But this is something I'm really focusing on in the new year. It's like I'm even doing an audit of my life and make sure, okay, like my will, having that in place, and just kind of those little details of life that seem to not really happen until it seems urgent. But I think there's so much peace of mind. And again, this is a service that we pay for that pays us back more than we paid, which is always nice, right?
Yes, exactly. And
Yes.
another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is you can self-direct your retirement account. And then you can invest in other things other than stocks. You can invest in real estate and Bitcoin and precious metals, and never pay tax ever again. Because the way the system is set up right now, and that's what most people do, they set up their retirement accounts, and then when you retire, you still have to pay tax on that money that you get from your income. So there's strategies where you don't ever have to pay ever again, if that's something it's beneficial for you. So everybody has different goals. So we
Yes.
will suggest the strategies based on your goals.
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, I'm so excited to look at all of this with you. Um,
Mhm. Yeah, and I
you know,
think another thing we talked about is that we live in a global environment. So a lot of people I know they want to retire abroad, and then
mhm,
you may want to retire somewhere where the US has a tax treaty with that country because you
mhm.
may end up paying double tax. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Probably smart to get some information before you make a decision like
Yes.
that. So, okay, in just a
Yeah.
minute, I would love for you to give some tips, knowing of course that everyone's situation is going to be a little bit different. But speak for just a minute to I know you can help, anyone listening to this, anyone in the US, but also um tell me for my listeners who you know, would specifically benefit from your expertise in international tax. Tell me why that matters, that you have that special knowledge for them specifically.
Yes, when it comes to international tax, when you're living abroad, you can exclude some of your income when you're a US citizen. So I know a lot of tax preparers don't take advantage of that exclusion as
Mm.
well. And then there's certain classifications how to qualify for that, like how much time do you spend in the US versus abroad, or if you come to
Mhm.
visit, how much time you can stay here. So you have that
Mhm.
tax benefit deduction as well. So kind of strategize around that if you're a US citizen or a US resident, green card holder as well.
Mhm.
If you're living outside of the US, you need to strategize so you can pay less tax, and especially if you're paying tax in that other country as well, how to
Mhm.
pay not double tax. So that's important. Quick tips, if you're in the US, right, you want to have, if you're meeting your family for Christmas, if you're traveling, make sure you do that as a business expense and make it a business expense and structure it as a business expense as
Mhm.
well. Paying your kids before the end of the year. Look at what's the state's standard deduction and the federal. Usually the state standard deduction is less, so you want to keep it at that limit and then
Mhm.
involve your kids in your business as well.
I've been putting
Um,
my daughter to work the last couple of weeks. Let me tell
oh,
you,
there you
she
go.
is she is a designated grammar guru. So she's been helping me do some editing and she's been helping me do some gifts for my clients. So I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm on track with that.
And then kids nowadays, they love social media. They love creating videos for
Mhm.
you. That they will love helping you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So,
And
so
if
keep
you're,
going.
oh,
Yeah.
one last tip. So you can make purchases now. Don't wait until the next year. If that's something you need, buy it now so you can take that deduction this year. If you can make any prepayments on something that you know you're gonna use. If you're making gifts, make sure you it's a business gift. You can have it as a deduction as well. I think it's 25 up to 25 dollar amount. If you have your family and your board of advisors, your board of directors, you can also buy them equipment that they need, like an iPhone or
Mm-hmm.
headphones, and it could be a business expense as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think my tip is that everyone needs to go have an appointment with a good tax advisor. That's the best tip because I know there's a lot more to be learned. So, and I'm definitely
Yeah.
excited to speak with you. Um, so as we wrap up, I am really excited that in the show notes you can see where to find Sandy, and also there is a link there to set up a free discovery call, which is your opportunity to find out if hiring her for a more in-depth consultation would be a benefit to you. And she is being so generous to offer also a 35% discount on that in-depth consultation if you choose to do that. So make sure that you make note of that if you book with her. And I believe the promo code is going to be in the show notes, but tell them more, Sandy, about what the best thing is to do in order to book with you and potentially move forward.
Yes, so the link is going to be there to book a exploratory call. So then we will assess if you will benefit from a comprehensive consultation because, I don't want to, make you pay for something that you're not going to get a benefit of.
Yes.
And second of all, once you book the consultation, you can enter the promo code, which is your name, Molly Claire. And then I'll know that it's going to be one of your listeners and they can get the 35% off.
Yes.
And this runs through the end of the year. Yeah.
Through the end of the year. Okay. So this is why now you all know why I disrupted my podcast schedule to have Sandy come for myself personally and also for all of you. So Sandy, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Oh, thank you.
So awesome. And I look forward
happy to help.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. It's a big deal. I don't think enough of us know enough about it. I think it can be a topic that feels intimidating. I know that I have felt that way. And especially as my coaches, right? As a coach building a business, you're learning so many things at once and you don't know where to begin. But this is really something to prioritize. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Especially if you're starting out, you want to structure yourself correctly.
Yes. All right, Sandy, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. And to my listeners, we will have another episode for you in a couple of weeks. And I hope you are all enjoying the holiday season. So I'll talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Masterful Coach podcast. Are you ready to build your amazing business with Molly as your coach? Check out www.mollyclaire.com to find out about Masterful Coach Foundations and the 10K Accelerator Method. It's the ultimate support for you as a coach building your ideal life and business.